Northeast India, divided by tribal conflicts and isolated from the rest of the country. In the southwestern corner of Assam, bordering Mizoram, Tripura and Bangladesh, lies Makunda Christian Leprosy and General Hospital. Today, Makunda is a busy place with over 90,000 patients seen and more than 2,400 major surgeries performed each year. About 250 staff from all over Northeast India and other parts of India work here joyfully. But this was not always so.
When we came here, we heard stories of so many people who died in labor. They could not cross over flooded areas and go to a hospital where emergency cesarean could be done.
Days we did not have that many nurses to take care of newborn babies after they were operated, and we didn't have an intensive care unit. So if we had operated on a tracheoesophageal fistula, then that baby will need at least 4 to 5 days of intensive care. So I had to be next to that baby, hand ventilating them, and I didn't have anyone at home to take care of a child, so I had to bring her to the hospital along with me to the theatre, and she was also with us going through and seeing all those babies being born, being ventilated.
Last year we had 4,500 deliveries. I'm sure many of these people would have died if this hospital was not here.
The hospital was founded in 1950s by Western missionaries. At that time, it catered to leprosy patients. Later in the 1990s, due to political reasons, the missionaries were asked to leave India, and the hospital was abandoned for almost 10 years. In 1992, Emmanuel Hospitals Association took ownership of this place, which lay in ruins. And the challenge to rebuild this hospital fell on a young doctor couple, Dr. Vijay Anand and his wife Anand.
We are newly married, I do not know anything about him. And then I had no one to whom I can share or talk or converse with. And
when we first came here, there was no money, so we couldn't buy anything. There was no water, there was no electricity.
We had to wait for the rains, when we had water collecting tanks behind our house, and we'll be wondering our last bucket of water is going to finish, and then suddenly God will send us the rain. And then it used to be very hot and we didn't have current, and our daughters used to cry. I used to fan day in and day out. And then I used to ask God, why don't you send your air conditioner? And God sent the rain, and and it will cool us. And then I understood that how God led the Israelites in the desert by clouds in the mornings and fire at the night to keep them, and it was very real to me.
The nearest phone was 50 kilometers away. There was no means to communicate with anybody. There wasn't anyone else in the campus with a similar vision. We did not speak the local language. We did not know the local culture. We had come from a well-developed urban area in Tamil Nadu to a remote rural setup in Northeast India. But beyond all that, I think the main problem was that we faced opposition from a lot of local people who would have liked to see the hospital close. So they threatened us, they kept us awake at night, they walked around the house with fire, they went up and down asking us to get out of this campus, and they filed false criminal cases against us. So we need to go to court and stand as accused every month for 2 years until we were all acquitted.
It was very difficult those days. Then one day as I was reading the Bible, and then I just read Psalm 37. Whenever we sing this things which we don't like happen, the first thing we do is fret. So when I read this psalm, God very clearly taught us, fret not yourself because of evildoers, be not envious of wrongdoers, for they will soon fade like the grass and wither like the green herb. Trust in the Lord and do good, dwell in the land and befriend faithfulness. Delight yourself in the Lord, and He will give you the desires of your heart. Commit your ways to the Lord, trust in Him, and He will act.
Trusting God in the midst of such challenges was a result of the choice that both Dr. Vijay Anand and his wife had made when they were both in medical college. They had decided to serve God as medical missionaries in a rural place. For Dr. Ann, this decision was well supported by her parents. But for Dr. Vijay, it wasn't so. And despite his parents not being too happy, he stood firm in his commitment to go where God wanted him to go.
We were very clearly convinced that this was a call from God to go to this place. So He would be a source of all wisdom, strength, encouragement. He just wanted us to be there and do and carry on with the day-to-day work. All the rest would be done by Him. So we had no doubts about problems being overcome. We didn't know the way in which it would be done and how much time it would take, but we were sure that it would happen.
In obedience to God's call, this couple have labored the next 22 years, treating patients and bringing hope to lives all around the community.
In the 1980s, missionaries left and then the hospitals closed. So our first task was to rebuild it, to make it self-sufficient, stable, and able to run on its own.
As we went around to our neighboring villages, we saw there were many tribals, children from Khasi tribe, Churai tribe, and Dibarma children who they were not able to go to school or pursue their higher studies because their parents were from very poor background. And they were also not able to easily mingle with the local language school, Bengali medium school, and they couldn't cope up with those children. So we thought that if there need to be a real transformation in their lives, we need to have a Christian school. We wanted to have a good school for the staff who are working with us, because that is a concern for the staff who come to work in remote rural areas.
There were a lot of people here who just became pan pickers. Even though they were very intelligent, they didn't have the opportunity to study. So now the school has made it possible for many poor children to leave traditional jobs, forest jobs, and aspire to be doctors and engineers. So I think these major impacts have happened. And we saw a very large area without any help, not only in Assam but in Mizoram and Tripura. So we basically saw the potential behind the problems which we could see. There were problems with the local people, no money, no facilities. But beyond that, we could see that if this project worked well, then it would be a great benefit to a lot of people and would build up God's kingdom in this place.
It is an evidence of God's grace of how the work has now extended from the hospital to the school and the nursing home. Today, Makunda Christian Hospital is self-sufficient. To support themselves, the community has its own facilities for agriculture, fisheries and poultry.
The cost of self-sufficiency while being poor-friendly is to be able to be happy with less. So less staff, less facilities for staff, means being content with simple things. The type of work that is done here in resource poor situations, if we can make working models for various problems, they can immediately be applied throughout the developing world. Maybe Africa, South America, all these island nations. So they would have a very powerful impact in all these places. Unfortunately, a lot of research done now is aimed at the corporate world. We have recently operated on a condition called ectopia cordis. The heart is outside the body. So that is extremely rare. I think 1 in 8 million births. And we have had similar very rare conditions which I don't think would be seen anywhere else. I think the greater challenge is to be able to provide the same quality of care without having the equipment and the backup that is available in urban hospitals.
That was just one of the many challenging opportunities that Dr. Vijay, Anand and Anne have witnessed in their 22 years at Makunda. Being a parent to 2 daughters, mentoring and preparing young doctors, while continuing to pioneer the work at Makunda with such grace and charisma is a reflection of their confidence in God being there for them.
The thing is to ask God what He wants us to do. So for me, once it was clear that it was to go into remote rural missions, everything else had to fit into that, including marriage, studies, whatever major decision I did. It was like making a vow, like the marriage vow, in sickness or in health and all that. So I also was very, very clear that I should marry somebody who is also interested in missions to the same extent as me.
It was painful for my parents also. They were not very sure that how long they will wait for the right person for me, but God brought Vijay at the right time.
And I think anybody considering a place like this should be prepared to persevere. So if you ask me, one thing that we have done here to make it work, it has been that we just stayed on. So we don't have to do anything extraordinary. Just stay on and do the daily work and plod on, and little by little God will bring everything.
I would say that I have not missed out on anything. In many more ways, I'll say that I have been able to do much more challenging work than my friends in Tamil Nadu, and I'm being there for the people who have no other way to go. And God also has asked us to be good stewards of our time, talent and treasure, and I'm sure that I'm able to do a little bit of what He has asked me to do by my time and my talent and my treasure for God.
When we treat people who cannot repay, God will repay their bills. So He not only provides material things, but He also gives peace and contentment and things that money cannot buy. So God has called us to this place, and we have just agreed to obey. He has not said just go and do these things. He said, I will take my hand and I am there with you. So He is with us. You can see His work in action every day. And it is, I don't think we have made any sacrifice. It has instead been a great privilege to be a small part of His big plan.
It's been 22 years since Dr. Vijay Anand and his wife Dr. Anand stepped out in faith to obey God's call in their lives. God has provided for them and enabled them to rebuild the hospital, complete with modern equipment and committed personnel. The nursing school and the English medium school started by them are a few examples of how the community around Makunda is being transformed every day.